What's up, world? My name is Salim, and welcome to Flip4Figs, to my channel's very first figure matchup. Now, figure matchup is where I use my Wheel of Destiny to choose two random Hot Toys figures from my collection to compare against each other. On this week's episode, we'll be comparing Revenge of the Sith's Kit Fisto with A New Hope Sandtrooper. We'll be comparing head sculpt, poseability, accessories, and overall value for the money to see who comes out on top. Stay tuned to the end of this video to see who next week's figure matchup will be.
Flip for figs.
When I flip, you flip, we flip.
Alright guys, kicking things off with the head sculpt. Now, Kit Fisto, incredible head sculpt, although it is a bit top heavy. So when I first got the figure in hand, I was actually really surprised by how top heavy it is. And I know a lot of people don't even use their crotch grabbers or their stands for their figures, but I feel like with Kit Fisto, it's almost necessary unless you're willing to risk it, because he's just so top heavy. He's going to put a lot of pressure on those joints. Now, I totally get it, and I think all of us would have been disappointed if they kind of cut corners to not have all of his tentacles there in the back, and they just look amazing. I mean, look at the detail here. Everyone looks like an individual sculpt, even though these middle ones are kind of one unified piece. The ones on the end are a little bit posable, but not as posable as the ones in the front, which are wired. A little difficult to kind of move around with, and it does feel like you may be putting a little too much pressure on them. But don't worry, I've kind of wiggled them around and they are solid. Now, the eyes just look perfect. Now, his expression, his whole face sculpt is his look from Revenge of the Sith. I know one of his most iconic appearances is in Attack of the Clones when he smiles after using the Force to knock over a battle droid. This is not that figure. This figure is from his look in Revenge of the Sith, where he gets totally owned by Palpatine. Now, whereas the Sandtrooper, I mean, the head sculpt, it's a helmet, it's a bucket, it's a Stormtrooper bucket. We all love them, but let's be honest, most of us have plenty in our collection. I have regular Stormtroopers, I have Scout Troopers, I have, Sandtroopers, I have Sandtrooper Sergeants, and so you've seen one Stormtrooper bucket, you've kind of seen them all, regardless of what the paint apps and things look like. So in terms of head sculpt, I'm going to have to give this one to Kit Fisto. All right, let's talk accessories. Now, the Sandtrooper comes with a ton of accessories, including 7 different glove palms, open palms, relaxed palms, as well as ones for holding weapons. You get 1 light repeating blaster, 1 heavy blaster, 1 blaster rifle. You also get a survival backpack, a pair of binoculars, a patrol droid with stand, 3 pouches, and the desert-themed base with Sandtrooper nameplate. Now, for Kit Fisto's accessories, you get 5 interchangeable hands, some relaxed, some gestures, some light holding the lightsaber. Actually, no, only 1 lightsaber holding hand. Now, this was frustrating for me. It's frustrating for many others, depending on where you want to have Kit Fisto in your display. He only comes with 1 hand to hold the lightsaber. And the upcoming Jedi, Plo Koon and Saesee Tiin, also have only 1 hand, which is the right hand, holding a lightsaber. So already that's kind of really frustrating, especially when you consider that you already get really limited accessories. Now, aside from the hands, you do get 1 standard lightsaber hilt, as well as 1 USB-C lit lightsaber hilt. You also get 1 standard blade, as well as 1 swooshing effect blade. And you do get a couple of different Clone Wars armor pieces, so that way you can have him look like he's in the Clone Wars if you didn't want him in your Revenge of the Sith display. He also comes with his base, which does have a placard you could put on top resembling kind of the Jedi Temple. Now, I know Plo Koon also comes with the same thing, but Saesee Tiin doesn't seem to come with that, so I'm not sure why they've opted out of including that, but it kind of means that I'm not sticking that one on here because the 3 won't match. Alright guys, so in terms of accessories, Sandtrooper is the clear winner. I mean, the patrol droid, which you can attach to its own little base, or the Sandtrooper's base, he comes with the backpack, several different weapons, binoculars, extra pouches. You can't even display everything on top of him all at once, which I think is just a testament to how many cool things he comes with. Whereas Kit Fisto, he does come with a few different hands, but only 1 hand that can hold a lightsaber, which is really frustrating. It also seems like a lot of the upcoming Jedi in the Revenge of the Sith series also only have one hand that can hold a lightsaber, which is, I think, a big, really silly because they're Jedi, right? They're going to incorporate their other hand at some point. So, in terms of accessories, Sandtrooper is the clear winner. Posability wise, I'm not going to go crazy on moving these things around. You either have these figures or you've seen other reviewers who really kind of push their figures to the limit. I kind of leave mine in, museum poses for the most part. The Sandtrooper, obviously, because it's a Stormtrooper body, it's got that, cloth undersuit like the clones and troopers have. It's pretty posable even with the armor. But if you put on all his accessories like the pauldron and these different pouches, including many pleather elements, you may be kind of weary about posing him in that way. Also with Kit Fisto, even though the body is wearing kind of a fabric suit with minimal pleather, and he's got the coat on there, the head sculpt makes it really challenging to do some crazy poses. Now, for the most part, he's a Jedi. He's not doing gymnastics, although I mean Obi-Wan and Anakin kind of did at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But for the most part, you can achieve any pose you really want to with either of them. So in terms of posability, I'm going to give them a tie. All right, now for overall value for the money. It's a little hard to compare because Kit Fisto is a 2025 release. In fact, he hasn't even started shipping to the States yet. I got mine from a Hong Kong reseller. The Sandtrooper came out several years ago. He's since been retired, and for a trooper, comes at a pretty high price tag. I think I paid a little over $400 after tax and shipping and everything for this guy brand new. Kit Fisto is going to run you a little over $300, whether you're getting him from the States or a Hong Kong seller, now that we have some tariffs and things like that. Granted, inflation has to do with it, but the Sandtrooper retailed for around $215 when it was released, whereas Kit Fisto retails for around $265, which is the ballpark for most Hot Toys figures now, if they're not a deluxe or some extra large figure. So let's assume that the Sandtrooper came out this year. It would probably be the same price. They may even consider this a deluxe version because of how many accessories he comes with. But in terms of overall value for the money, I look at the value to me and to the value that I think most people would look for in their collection. Now, the Sandtrooper is great, don't get me wrong. It's probably one of the best Stormtrooper or Trooper designs overall that Hot Toys has released, but at the end of the day, it's a Trooper. If you don't have the Sandtrooper in your collection, you may not miss it because there's so many other varieties. There's the Sandtrooper Sergeant, which is pretty new. You can get that pretty easily. There's Sandtroopers from The Mandalorian, from Ahsoka, from Rogue One, from A New Hope, and from Return of the Jedi. So if you don't have this specific figure, you can even achieve this look using orange pauldrons from some Scout Troopers or Stormtroopers that come from other movies or TV shows. So if you don't have this specific figure in your collection, I don't really think you're going to miss it. I mean, I know I would because I just spent around $400 on him. Whereas Kit Fisto, let's be honest, no other figure in your collection is going to look like Kit Fisto. Even when the other, Jedi like Plo Koon and CC10 release, he still looks very unusual and very unique and very iconic. There's no other real 6-scale Kit Fisto that can contend with this one. I think Sideshow made one several years ago, but it's nothing like this. If you don't have this figure in your collection, you just don't have Kit Fisto. Whereas if you don't have this Sandtrooper, you could still get by with other options. So in terms of value for the money and what it presents to your collection, I'm going to give this one to Kit Fisto. All right, guys, now the results. So as I mentioned, Kit Fisto, he got value for the money as well as head sculpt, and he tied for posability. Sandtrooper got accessories as well as the tie for posability. So Kit Fisto is the winner here. I don't know how surprising or not that is to you, and I mean, you may likely disagree if you're not a fan of the prequels, if you're not a fan of this figure. I think most people associate Kit Fisto with that scene in Attack of the Clones, like I said, where he's, force pushes the battle droid and his face sculpt is different there. I mean, not that anyone, unless you're a big Star Wars fan, is really going to look at your Kit Fisto and be like, oh, wait a minute, that's not the right sculpt. So, yes, I think Kit Fisto is the clear winner here. It's who I would choose. If I had to hypothetically get rid of one of these guys, I'm keeping Kit Fisto.
on next week's episode of Figure Matchup.
When I flip, you flip, we flip.